Hey everybody, welcome to Sunday afternoon Facebook Live. Today's topic is boundaries, the magic tool for eliminating toxic people from your life. So first of all, what's a boundary? I guess it's a limit, it's a line that marks an area or a border, a dividing line if you like. In a relationship, you can think of it as the standards that you'll accept in that relationship. So why does having boundaries eliminate toxic people from your life? Well, that's because toxic people will test you early in a relationship. They test if you'll allow your boundaries to be stretched or eroded. Because boundary stretching is a signal that a person's insecure or able to be manipulated. So they will give you subtle little tests to see if, if you will stretch that boundary or allow them to cross the boundary. So it can be quite subtle, but they're relying on your desire to be liked or admired or to fit in. It's a test that you don't want to pass. It's the first of many. If you start with that very small erosion of your boundaries, then it becomes greater and greater. And it's one of the things that we always see in an abusive relationship. They'll talk about the fact that they had these little tests, if you like, early on. So maybe they were a little disrespectful somewhere, or there might have been some name calling, or they might have gotten, very angry about something quite small, or they couldn't accept no. They wouldn't hear no for an answer in something that they wanted. So there's lots of really small tests, if you like, that will happen in the early days. As a test you don't want to pass, as I said. So anyone who has low self-worth or feels anxious about themselves, even if it's only a temporary or situational situation. So you might have come out of a bad relationship, or you might have had something in particular that's happened that's knocked your self-esteem temporarily. Might have lost a business, you might have just come out, been divorced, or, maybe your partner was unfaithful or something along those lines. Those kinds of things can temporarily affect our self-worth, our self-esteem, if you like. So even if it is just a temporary loss of self-esteem, we can be inclined to be a little too flexible about our boundaries, a little too willing to have someone lean on our boundaries and for us to give in when we're feeling that particular way. And this is how an otherwise healthy person can get involved in a toxic relationship. They're having this sort of temporarily lower self-esteem. They're normally perhaps somebody who's got quite good self-esteem, but they've had a particular situation that has happened that has knocked their self-esteem a little bit, and suddenly their boundaries are a little less firm than they would normally be or should be. So remember, a toxic person needs you to have poor boundaries. Otherwise, you're going to be calling them out on their behaviour, on their inconsistencies and the lack of character, the things that you're observing. And what they really want is for you to be making excuses for their behaviour. And if you've got really good boundaries and you've got high self-esteem, you won't do that. So they particularly want to be involved with people who have low self-esteem and poor boundaries. So by having these boundaries in place, you basically become very unattractive to somebody who's toxic. And remember, in a relationship, you have the right to have any boundary, any concrete standard, any expectation that you are comfortable with. Now, for some people, that might look like I won't tolerate lies, or it might look like I won't tolerate drug use, or I won't tolerate somebody who drinks too much, alcohol. So, you get to decide what those boundaries are, whatever it is that you're comfortable living with. Don't let someone else persuade you that those boundaries are unreasonable, because you're the person who has to live with them. So a lot of people don't realise that they've even relaxed their boundaries until they're looking at them in the rear view mirror. So they've eroded their boundaries so much that they're actually sort of looking back over their shoulder and going, oh, that's where the boundary was. That's where I should have stopped them. That's really where I got uncomfortable, and that's what I should have done. So, obviously it's too late at that point in time. It's very hard to place that boundary in your relationship once you've well and truly passed it. And usually you wouldn't be successful in doing that in your relationship. You need to be mindful of creating that in your next relationship. So how do you tell if you've allowed your boundaries to be eroded? A lot of the time, one of the indicators will be that you feel resentment. You'll feel like maybe you've been taken advantage of, or as though your thoughts and feelings don't matter in that relationship. So that resentment will be there, and it will be underlying, and you may need to sort of dig a little to work out, well, what is it I'm actually feeling resentful about? Why do I feel resentful? And it will usually come back to somewhere that you've allowed your boundary to be eroded and they've taken advantage of it. Because the thing that you need to understand is a toxic person is a taker. They won't set a boundary. They don't have boundaries themselves, and they want to walk all over your boundaries. They don't want, for each of you to be self-contained and independent, healthy individuals. And they'll do everything they can in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. And this is why we see in abusive relationships, over time, those boundaries being more and more eroded, and the person becoming more and more abusive, and the victim of that becoming more and more downtrodden or low self-esteem as a result of that. And truthfully, that's where a toxic person wants you. That's where an abuser wants you. So having healthy boundaries in a relationship means not agreeing to things that go against your values or aren't in alignment with your goals, whatever they might be. It means not allowing someone to treat you as though your thoughts, opinions, and desires don't matter, or as though they have less value than their thoughts, opinions, and desires. Even if they cajole you, or if they get angry, or if they try to emotionally manipulate you into giving in. So remember, emotionally healthy people respect other people's boundaries. Anyone who doesn't respect your boundaries doesn't respect you. And in any relationship, the boundary that you step back over, so back away from, that's going to be the new standard that you'll be accepting in that relationship. So think about that. If you aren't prepared to live with this long term, then don't step over that boundary. And this is true of all relationships. This is not just intimate partner relationships. This is true in family. It's true with our parents or our brothers or our sisters. It's true in friendships as well. Okay. So just in closing, I want to repeat what I said. Healthy people respect other people's boundaries. And if they don't respect your boundary, then they don't respect you. And if you accept the erosion of that boundary, that is going to be the new standard that you're accepting in that relationship. And that's it for today. I want to keep them short. As I keep saying, it's really just a cup of coffee and a quick chat on a Sunday afternoon. But if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments below. If you want to, you can follow on and check this out on our podcast. You can obviously have a look at our business on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. And, if you've got suggestions for topics in upcoming weeks, then please do get in touch. Have a wonderful Sunday, and thanks for the chat, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.